Mhm.
Welcome to Health Conscientious Entrepreneurs, where we uncover secrets to entrepreneurship, life, and healthy habits to achieve radiant health. I'm your host, Ngoc Tai, and today I have my friend Marie Shaw all the way from Australia. Hey, welcome,
Hello.
Marie.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
yes, thank you for coming on the show. I'm very happy you're here. So tell me, share a little bit about your experience and what brings you joy.
Well, one thing that definitely brings me joy is my family. I love my family so much, and just being able to, I guess, initially be forced to spend a lot of time with them, given the climate that's, everything that's going on with the pandemic.
Uh,
I've just, I guess, grown this huge appreciation for the time that I'm actually getting to spend with them right now. So that's definitely what brings me joy at the moment.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just very important to be connected to our family right now, especially because we've spent so much time with our family.
Yeah.
Share your professional background. I found you, a friend of mine recommended you. It's like, yay, thank you, Elise.
Well, as far as my professional background goes, so I'm actually a hairdresser of over 20 years. And it wasn't up until about 5 years ago that I started to make a bit of a career change. So from a physical point of view, hairdressing was really wearing down on my body. And so I had to start thinking ahead and think to myself, well, if I can't actually do hair anymore, what am I going to do with myself? So I really spent a lot of time focusing, not specifically on a career that I wanted to do or something physical that I wanted to do, but basically what lights me up, what brings me joy and what makes me happy. So what I did realize was that since I can remember, I've always just wanted to help people or help animals or just help people and always be there for them. And I thought, okay, well, how can I turn this into a career that I enjoy, that fills my cup?
Yeah.
And coaching was one of the first things that popped into my head. But when I was looking at all the, I guess you could say, the more common or traditional sort of methods of coaching, like business coaching, life coaching, I thought none of them quite resonated with me. I was like, I could do that, but I don't think that would fill my cup.
Mm-hmm.
And so after doing a bit more research, I came across a modality that was called consciousness coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And straight away, it just intrigued me. I was like, what is this? What does this mean? And so that was the very first step in my journey as being a coach and a mentor. And since then, I've studied consciousness as well as continued studies into epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
And I continue my further studies. So I'm also studying aromatherapy at the moment.
Yay.
I've recently completed a crystal healing certification because, as you can see, this is my home at the moment where my office is, but they're everywhere. I have a showroom of crystals, but the thing is they just bring me so much joy being surrounded by them, learning about them, the colors, the textures, the meanings, the vibrations, everything. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, talking about crystal,
Mm,
a friend of mine gave me some crystal and she said, hold it in your palm and feel the earth and the vibration. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was just like, just feeling it throbbing in my finger and
yeah.
like this whole beat that was, and then I held another one and it just didn't beat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never realized that crystal has these, I knew it has properties and stuff, but to really be in tune to the beating of the crystal and the life that's in the crystal. I mean, to me, it makes sense because, it's part of the earth, right?
That's it. Well, they're formed in the earth, and
Yeah.
everything has an energy. So
Mm-hmm.
we have an energy. Trees, nature has energy. Crystals have energy. So, and we're constantly exchanging that energy, and that's what affects our moods and the way we feel every day. So one thing I absolutely love about crystals and crystal healing is that I can choose and surround myself with the stones that I feel that I need, or that if I want to raise my love vibration, I'll surround myself with rose quartz. Or if I want to manifest something, like I've got a pendant on at the moment that's got manifestation quartz. So it's actually a piece of clear quartz that has another piece of quartz going through it. So just being able to choose those things and choose what I can surround myself with, it's made the hugest difference. And even just learning about it and absorbing all that information, I love it.
Yeah, me too. I'm still learning, and I love like also my stones and my crystals,
Yeah.
because I was learning about EMF, and then that's like how certain crystals, are good to deflect EMF, right? And
Yes.
so, and then so I was trying them on, like, I have an EMF tester and trying on my Wi-Fi, and it's like, oh my gosh, it does really, it does really work,
Yes.
Yeah, people who doubt crystals and stuff like that, if you try it, you can feel that there's these power and these energy, and then they're so beautiful too.
Well, and that's another thing too, from a visual point of view, they're stunning. And as I said, the selection that's out there is just endless. So there's a lot of choice out there.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to really, there's so much information. So how do you start? Where do you start to learn about crystals? Just go on the internet and just talk to people, or?
I'm a real lover of books. So whilst I believe that the internet is a great source of information, I also think that there's almost an information overload where if you explore too much on the internet, you'll end up finding more contradictions of things. Yeah. So I found for myself when I first started getting into crystals and wanted to learn more, I just brought it back to basics, and I just purchased like a very simple crystal book. I've actually got one right next to me. This is the desk version, but this one here's called the Book of Stones, and there's a large version which I've got as well. But I found finding a book like this where it just has a list of all the, when I say the basic stones, probably the more commonly known stones.
Yeah.
And then, as you explore those stones, you can just refer to the book and read about it. And that way, as I said, you're not being overloaded with too much information, because ultimately, crystals, they all heal. And sometimes the similarities can either be the explanations can be very similar or a little bit contradictory. But I think that's where your intuition kicks in as well, where if a stone is right for you, regardless of the information that you found.
Yeah. And so for you and your kind of work, what kind of coaching do you do to help people?
So I describe myself as a holistic empowerment coach. My tagline or my motto for my business is mind, body, business. So I believe that, you can't just focus on one aspect of your life and expect those results to, remain there and continue on. You've got to work on all the parts of it and take that holistic approach. So, for myself, incorporating, my crystal healing and also incorporating my consciousness coaching, and then, running a business, a hair salon for as long as I did. And I had a business coach. So, I incorporate some of that as well. And I find that by having all that different experience, when I do, work with someone one-on-one, I can really help them with whatever their specific issue or block is, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether they're wanting to start a business, or it could be family and relationships. So I feel that I cover quite a broad spectrum of people.
Yeah. And it's amazing. And it's just, before there wasn't much of an awareness. I feel like it's more now, like there's more of awareness of holistic healing, right? With crystal.
Definitely. And I found that myself. So when I first started going down the sort of coaching path, one, block or limiting belief that I had was, is anyone even going to understand what I do? Or am I even going to be able to make a business out of this? And so it wasn't, until I progressed in my journey and started connecting with other people, like-minded people, and doing my research. And I realized, well, no, my gosh, there's such a need for this. And it's about bringing awareness to people of these things. Because, I must admit, when I first took on a coach, maybe 7 years ago, I didn't even know they existed. I was aware of people like Tony Robbins and stuff like that, but I actually did not know that I could I could hire someone to help to coach me on a particular thing in my life or on my life. So
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
But it makes sense though, because if you think about it, we all come from different backgrounds, right? We come from different
Yes.
experiences and going through different journeys. And
Yeah.
some of us, arrive at a different journey in an earlier time, and then they bring us along to our journey, right? It's like now I feel like it feels like we're all going back to the root, right? You feel like we're
Yeah.
back to like, hey, let's think about, instead of like, I keep saying, instead of thinking about treatment, let's think about prevention. And that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's what all this healing, holistic healing, all these things. Let's just go back to the core of
Yes.
what we were thousands and thousands of years ago, where we have healers that were natural healers, spiritual healers, and all that stuff. And I feel like that's where we're going right now.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I think with with everything that's going on at the moment with the pandemic, that it's really almost forced people to kind of go within and reassess and almost, challenge their thought patterns, seek out answers. It's, I believe there's a huge energetic shift at the moment in the world. And, whether or not people will kind of jump on board and go with the momentum of that or try to fight it, that depends where they are. But I do believe that, yeah, there's a massive shift going on in the world, and consciousness is being raised essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing. I mean,
No.
honestly, my whole summit is just connecting to so many healers that I've never connected, before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just brought me to this journey, because like yourself, I had a different career. I still have a different career. I'm
Yeah.
a chartered accountant, and what am I doing talking about health? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
what do you know about health? But it's just like, it's because I had to go through a journey, and I had to come to an awakening, and I had to figure health out. And it's like, in this whole pandemic, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, now we really, really need to look at this whole
Yes.
balance, right? Because I do, like, even though I'm new to the industry, I just do feel there's a shift. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a total shift that we either move forward with the shift and we adapt and adjust and rebalance, or we get stuck in the old mindset, right? The old, like, okay.
Well, I guess that's the thing. Even if you're new on this, for anyone that's new on this journey, you can feel it. That's something that you can't deny. And I mean, even just turning your television on or scrolling social media, you can see where the shifts are happening and the direction that people are going in. So, one thing that's been really important to me is that I'm really mindful of what I'm essentially exposing myself to, and I'm making conscious choices on what I'm seeing. So, for me, on a personal level on social media, I've started following more people that, that I really enjoy seeing and their content and the vibe that they put out. Whereas, there's other people or groups that I'm like, you know what, that's not serving me at the moment. So I'm going to snooze you or unfollow, or all those options that social media has given us now. But I'm making like that real conscious choice of what I'm putting into my space and my energy field. Because admittedly, when all this began, with the virus, at the start, I was extremely overwhelmed. Like, it was almost like I was craving all this information, because I was like, I wanted to know so much about what is this virus, what's going on, what does it mean for us? Yeah. But then I was taking on so much information, and I found myself just depleted. I was getting super anxious, and I thought, hang on, Angeli, this isn't how you want to live your life. Yeah. You need to start making some changes. And so I did. And I mean, I still watch the news. That's like a daily habit of mine. I watch our evening news here for half an hour, and that just keeps me informed. But I've also learnt now to, I guess, take what I want from those news reports. So I might listen to a statistic, but then I won't really take in the rest of it if I feel it doesn't serve me.
Yeah, because I feel like, for me, I stay away from it too, because I just watch like little bits and stuff. Because I feel like they're repeating the same thing over and over and over. but not really talking about the people who's recovered, the people who's healthy, and why.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
why
that's
are
what,
they recovering? I mean,
yeah,
what are,
that's what we're finding here as well, that, you know, there's so much focus on numbers and statistics and hospitalizations and unfortunately deaths,
yeah,
but the focus on the recovery and how many people have overcome the virus, or, you know, what sort of positive breakthroughs and techniques are going on, we're finding here that there's really not enough
yeah,
focus on it. And so by I guess the media and us absorbing it, you know, focusing on the other end of things, it's just adding on to that collective fear, you
yeah,
know. And when I speak about collective fear, and I actually did an interview about this well, probably a couple of months ago, but I speak to people about being really aware if the fears that you hold at the moment are your own, or
mm,
are they part of the collective? So are
yeah,
you getting sucked into that?
yeah,
And, you know, once that's something that I realized, that at the beginning I was getting sucked into that collective fear of, you know, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, this virus, businesses, money, health, everything.
mm-hmm,
And I went, no, Angeli, just stop
mm-hmm,
and, you know, zone into your own fears and triggers and what's going on.
mm-hmm,
Once I could do that, then I could start working through those fears.
yeah,
And for me, working through them was also breaking them down to what I describe as rational and irrational fears.
mm-hmm,
So, you know, a rational fear would be, you know, if someone was going to attack you and you got scared, that's completely rational. But an irrational fear would be, what's an example? It would be me putting on a brand new dress that I bought in the morning and looking in the mirror, but then going, oh, no, I'm not going to wear this dress today because people might think I'm ugly. You know,
yeah,
that's a rational fear.
yeah,
So working out the difference between those two, I mean, that process in itself was so empowering for me,
mm,
because then it felt like I literally just got rid of all this junk in my headspace, you know, and then all of a sudden I had these, I suppose, these few things that I needed to process,
mm-hmm,
but I could process because my head wasn't full of all that other stuff, all that other chatter.
yeah. It is.
Yeah.
We have so many chatters that goes on all
Oh,
the time in the
so
unconscious
many.
mind, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and I you know, I used to have a lot of that where I was just like talking to myself in my head, just working through things and just like trying to reason and all that sort of stuff. And now I feel like, yes, I'm aware of it, but I'm not letting it take control. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's like,
Well, like it's like the inner dialogue that you have. Like we've all got it,
yeah,
and you know, our inner dialogue. You know, a lot of it's based on our conditioning and our beliefs that we've formed. You know, in childhood, and if you believe in past lifetimes. And you know, it's interesting. I actually came across a statistic earlier, and I wrote it down because I found it really interesting. But they say, psychologists say that on average we think 25 to 30 thoughts a minute.
yeah, wow.
So, you know, if you're thinking a negative thought and repeating that, you're potentially repeating that thought up to 600 times a day.
That's crazy.
And so, you know, if you think about however old you are and how long you've been around for, if you're repeating that thought regularly for days, weeks, months, years,
Uh-huh.
then it becomes ingrained in you and it becomes a habit. So that's where, you know, becoming more conscious of those thoughts, as soon
Mhm.
as you become more conscious of it, that's when you can start making changes and start shifting, you know, shifting that mindset.
Mhm. So for people who are in that weird, you know, kind of aware, but like how what do you suggest for them to do to really, I guess, bring confidence, bring that subconscious mind to consciously be aware and change the thought process. You know, it's like, you know, because we had to, like, I
Yeah.
had to go through a journey myself, you know, to figure out like who I am, et cetera, et cetera. But people who don't have a trauma or an awakening, it's harder for them. So what do you suggest that they do?
Well, I guess one thing that is really important to remember is there's no quick fix, or it's not just, okay, I'll stop doing this and then I'll feel better or my mindset will change. You know, it's one thing that I say is it's a commitment, but you're making a commitment to yourself. You know, it's a journey, and the thing is, it's an ongoing journey. It never ends. So taking that first step, whatever it may be, it could be finding a coach, or it could be as simple as clearing out your space, you know, decluttering, or changing your diet, you know, just making those small positive changes. You know, to me, it starts the momentum. You know, once you clear out your space, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel so much better, but I'm not eating very well. I might look at what I'm eating. And then once you improve your diet, you know, you start to get more mental clarity and you start to get more energy. So from there, you know, you might say, okay, well, you know what? I really want to start exercising. I'm going to start walking 10 minutes a day. And then next week it's 20 minutes, and then so on. And so you're building on it. And it's, you know, it's, I kind of describe a little bit like a spider web. Like, it just keeps going. Like, as you make those steps and progress and reach out, learn, absorb, you know, all of a sudden it just keeps going. And as I said, it's never ending, but it's a very fulfilling journey.
Yeah.
Very fulfilling.
Definitely. Yeah. I like I said, when I had to have that awakening, one of the things that I started doing, I started writing poetry.
Yeah.
And I mean, all my life, I don't write poetry. You know what I mean? It's like, I never thought, you know, because I'm an accountant, right? So I was never like I never thought I was a creative. So those were in my head. I always say, I'm not a creative person. You know, I'm like, you know, I don't create or artistically, you know. But then when I was going through my trauma, I was like, I started all of a sudden just writing these amazing poetry. And, you know, it was just the pain of what's inside that subconscious mind that was just keep going and going. And I was able to put it into words and into like a notebook. And so when I read back at these poetry, it's like, they're so powerful. And I share with other women, and then when you read it, you just get in touch with the emotions and the rawness of the poetry. But now you ask me to write it, I have a harder time writing it now.
Yeah, I mean, journaling is just so powerful. Just getting that, you know, sometimes we feel like we've got all these thoughts in our head and they're just stuck in there, and it's like, you know, you want to get rid of them and you don't know how. And I do find that journaling is just so powerful because it's an expression of yourself. You know, it's something to reflect back on as well. Like you've said, I mean, you know, I'm sure if you look back and read some of your first journal entry, you know, you'll think to yourself, my God, you know, like, I've come so far, or who is that person? Like, and it's a lot of people underestimate, you know, they go, oh, I can't write, or, oh no, I don't, you know, I don't do that sort of stuff. But I mean, you know, taking those little steps out of your comfort zone, like just pushing yourself that little bit, you know, I believe that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's so powerful. The words, right? And I just always admire people, like, because we're all creators. Right? We manifest thoughts and ideas to create something.
Yeah.
But we just don't really give ourselves enough credit for that. You know what I mean? It's like we just, you know, we just like, okay, well, that's what I do, or you know, it's normal, you know, and then you look at, if we look at our society and look at all the inventions that we have, like all these inventions where did they come from?
Yeah.
It comes
They're all created. That's it. They're all creations.
Yes.
Someone created them.
Exactly. So. And it comes from this brain, that everybody has this brain that we're able to tap into the conscious, subconscious mind, right? And then we come up with these thoughts, or while we're sleeping or we're doing something, and these thought process comes through that we tap into, I guess I would call it the energy that's within us, right? To come to create this thought into a thing, like a physical thing. And it's just so powerful when we really look at the evolution of human beings.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right? We look at the evolution of humans, where we came from to where we're now with all these technologies, like looking at this camera that we're talking, or us, like you in Australia, me here in the US, having this conversation because of Facebook that connected us together through a friend who is from the Philippines, brought us like where did all that come from?
And it is, when you look at technology, like really, if for as long as the human race has been around, predominantly probably in the last 100 years or less, like the evolution of technology is just insane. Like I feel like every month there's something new where I'm like, oh my God, like what else could they possibly come up with? But I guess there's pros and cons to technology, and that all comes down to balance as well. Like I love technology, but sometimes I don't.
I know.
And finding that balance, especially for me here in Melbourne, we're in a very, what they're describing as a hard lockdown. So we're only allowed to leave our homes to buy groceries for an hour max, and we're only allowed to leave to exercise for an hour max. Mm-hmm. So for me, since this lockdown began, I've had to be so aware of the amount of time that I'm using technology, because by the time I know it, I could be on my computer for 6 hours, or I look at with smartphones now, we can have a look at our usage.
Yeah.
And I've compared my usage, and I'm like, oh no, Angeli, you need to get off your phone. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I stay away from the iPhone, because it does monitor, and I use the Samsung phone and it doesn't monitor.
Yeah, iPhones they're a little bit, I must admit, I was talking to my husband about something the other day, and then I jumped on my Facebook and there was advertisements for that particular product and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, they listen to us. They're constantly listening to us. And I'm like, it's so, what I find that the more information we have, the more like our privacy is invaded. You know what I mean? It's like you don't even know, your phone, they're recording you, or your, whatever those Alexa and the smart thing and and I'm always like paranoid, because I go turn it off, unplug it. If you're not using it, turn it off, because I don't want people listening to my conversation, it's like recording it, and like people are typing it up.
Yeah, I'm a believer especially with the iPhone or Apple, because of Siri.
Yeah.
If she, if I can talk to Siri, hopefully she doesn't talk back to me.
Yeah.
If I can talk to her, then what is she listening to what I'm saying? And is that the reason why when I talk about specific things that it pops up in my advertisements and on my social media? It's very,
yeah, it is. It's like, it's very invasive. It's very. We've given up our our privacy. Like, it's like our privacy is just and we don't, and what I find is that we don't know enough.
And that's the thing, we, as consumers, and that we don't know enough. And I mean, we can ask the questions, but it's whether or not those people, wherever they are willing to give us the answers or not, which I think in most cases, no, we won't get all the answers. Yeah.
And I find the same thing that happens with like our food, everything in our life, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know enough, we just know like a surface level thing. Like we don't know unless we consciously seek information to learn. Right.
And that's something I started doing with food. I started, I mentioned to you when we first spoke that I was, I'm 36 and there is zero history of diabetes in my family on either side. And I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes just over a year ago, which was a massive shock to me, because I was like, hang on a minute, like there's no history. And I actually eat quite well. So I eat mainly organic food. I don't eat a lot of, I eat barely any processed food, and my food journey in itself, I've done my own research and made my own choices. And I was just so shocked to be diagnosed with it. But then, like I mentioned to you, I thought, well, I believe that I can essentially turn this around or make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And so through my diet and everything that my body's consuming, I'm on the absolute bare minimum insulin, even though my endocrinologist was quite shocked about it. But, you know, I just thought, well, I really need to look at what I'm eating. And even just from I guess from an energy perspective and an emotional perspective, you know, when I look back to when I was in my early 20s, where, you know, hardly slept, go out to clubs, bars, all that stuff, drinking heaps of alcohol, you know, you do it, you party when you're younger. And I think back, you know, I remember when I was working for a salon, I would go to a club on Thursday night. I would go to a club on Friday night, and I would go to a club on Saturday night.
Oh my gosh.
All 3 nights, I'd drink alcohol. I'd still work Friday and I'd still work Saturday.
Yeah.
And there were some weeks where I didn't sleep, you know, and I just stay up all night with my friends, and then I'd go to work. And I look back and I think, oh my God, Angeli, like, you were so young and naive, and you weren't aware of the damage that you were doing to your body. And so there is part of me now that thinks to myself, okay, well, you know, maybe getting diagnosed with diabetes was a wake-up call, you know, to say, hey, Angeli, like, you've pushed it long enough, you know, and so now, like, I sleep well, you know, I barely drink. When I say barely, special occasion, but unfortunately we can't go out at the moment. So there hasn't been much of that. And just making those choices of what I put into my body and how much water I consume, and then observing the differences that it makes as well. You know, I hardly drank water before because I just didn't. It was like, oh, water's boring. And now, since I've, you know, started drinking more water, like, the differences in my skin, my urine's clearer. It used to be not a great color, you know. All those sort of things. It's massive what we consume.
Wait until you get the water that I was going to share.
Yes, I know.
Nice water. It's such a huge difference for me. And that was when my acidity level and the stress. And I'm like you. When I was younger, I never drink, right? I mean, I was a workaholic. I had a full-time job, right? And I was going to school full-time. And then after that, I was graduated from college. I always worked full-time, always had side business, had my son. Now I'm still doing the same thing, except I'm sleeping more. Before I was sleeping 4 or 5 hours a day.
I was like that too.
And I felt like I was older. And then looking back at my pictures, even like a few years ago, I look a lot older than now, you know, because my relationship wasn't good, right? So then that was the stress of the relationship, and then the stress of everything in life. I feel like, you know, after drinking my water for a year, my body completely changed. My health changed. My skin changed. My hydration changed. And I look like 10 years younger. And when I look at these pictures, even from last year, before and after, I'm like, people don't recognize me because I'm a completely different person, because inside my body, it feels so much better. It feels hydrated. And, you know, like I say, you know, these symptoms we have, it's our body's way of telling us, okay, look at these problems and these things you've been doing.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and when we're young, we think we're invincible, right?
Oh, yeah, we all think we're invincible when we're young. But, you know, it's interesting, like my mother, who's Filipino, and my brother. So the 3 of us, we've actually all changed our diets quite dramatically. And for my mum, you know, it's interesting because we're Filipinos, and, you know, the food that they love to eat and everything, when she started changing her diet, all of my aunties and uncles were like, why are you eating that? That's, you know, that's like, have this cake, have this pork, have the, you know. And my mum's like, no, it's okay, you know, I'm cleaning up my diet and I'm doing all this stuff. And so for my mother, you know, she's 71 years old, and she doesn't look it. I remember when I think my mum was 55, so I was underage and I wanted some alcohol, and I said to my mother, Mum, can you buy me this?
Yeah.
She got asked for her ID,
Oh
and
wow, that's awesome.
over 50 years old, because so that just shows that how much she's taking care of herself.
Yeah.
And then for my brother, his story is interesting too, because he's never been a drinker, so he's always been super healthy, sports, athletics, exercise, everything. But then he started suffering from all these inflammation
Yeah.
issues.
Huge.
And ultimately, he ended up getting told that he had early stages of Crohn's disease.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Now, my brother, I love him. He's very stubborn though. So he said, no, I'm going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how my brother completely turning his diet around. When he got checked, he'd pretty much like 95% reversed the Crohn's disease that he was diagnosed with. So, and that is all just through what he's consuming.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, it's like, we're here in Western medicine.
Yeah.
When you're sick, they just give you pills, and that was
they give you something. Yeah.
They give me pills,
yep.
And I'm like, no, this pill is not good for me, and it's hiding my symptom. It's not really helping my body heal itself, And that's when I got the water, and now I feel like, okay, I'm consciously healing my body. I'm drinking this water. I've always eaten good food, but it was the water. The only thing I changed was my water, which is like, okay, it's amazing. I water and I have turmeric. And so that's able to control my inflammation, right? And if we all consciously have health issues, we just need to look at the food, look at what we're drinking, look at the alcohol, look at the coffee, look at the sodas, look at these little things that we can tweak, right? And then the body starts healing and reversing all the problems that we have, instead of just kind of chucking down medication all the time. I'm totally anti-medication. I was just like, okay, just stay away from
me too. Me too. I've actually always been, even since I was younger, when I say anti-medication, I mean, of course, in certain scenarios, there may be a need for something, but I don't take anything for a headache. Mm-hmm. I'm not the type of person that's like, give me a painkiller, I have a headache. Mm-hmm. I'll drink water, I'll lay down for 10 minutes, I'll do other things. And so even when I had my son, I ended up having to have a C-section, a cesarean. Mm-hmm. And when I woke up from it, they gave me all these pills and these tablets. And I mean, I was so out of it, I didn't think, I just took them. Mm. And I still, to this day, I believe that besides my hormones, that whatever they gave me, the combination just sent me loopy. I was beyond a mess on the first day of having my son. Yeah. And so the next day I put my foot down and I said, no, I don't want it. And they said, but you've had major surgery, you need these painkillers. And I said, well, no. I said, I'm laying in a bed, I'm comfortable. Yeah. I said, only when I move, I feel a bit of pain, but it's bearable. And so I went the rest of my hospital stay with no painkillers, even though they really wanted me to.
I mean, and imagine this, okay? So what you just said resonate with me. And imagine this. You just had a child, they're giving you tons of drugs, and you're breastfeeding.
Yes. And my son, he'll be 2 in October, and I'm still breastfeeding him. My plan was to breastfeed him for as long as he wanted to, and he still wanted to. And so that was actually another thing that entered my mind too. I was like, well, what I'm consuming is going into my milk. And so I wouldn't say I was a difficult patient, but I didn't eat any of the hospital food. Yeah. My mum and my mother and my brother actually delivered me home cooked, organic, whatever it was, because I just didn't want to eat what they had there. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, even though I just had surgery, I was fine. They wanted to wheelchair me out. I was like, no, I can walk. Yeah. And I'm glad that I kind of put my foot down with that.
That's amazing that you had the common sense to put your foot down and not just accepting it as it is. And that's so important, right? Because it's because we just accept what people tell us, and we just not the authority of, okay, well, that doesn't make sense to me. And that comes back when you talk about children and pregnancy and water. It's like,
Yes.
what, you know, there's like this huge, you know, interest, you know, so many kids are born with so many problems now.
Yes.
Why are kids born with health problems, with eczema, ADHD, attention deficit
Yeah.
problem, skin problem, all this stuff? And so it comes from the mom.
Yeah.
Like whatever we are experiencing as we're carrying our child, right? It's like the pregnancy, if we're stressed out, right? If we're
Yeah.
dehydrated and we're not drinking water properly, or we're eating junk food and all that sort of stuff, whatever we're doing to our body, it's going to that baby that's inside of us, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
so important that when you're pregnant, you need to really take care of this body,
Yes.
even more so, because if you don't take care of this body, then that is where your kid is, the baby is in there, needs that food, needs that
Yeah.
nutrient, right? And you're taking medication and stuff, that's not good, you know? So it's like, it's so important that we really look at these pregnancy and these women and these, like, how, you know, we need to be aware of what we're feeding our body as we're pregnant, because that
Yeah.
impacts our children, you know, and that's all
And
the problems that we see.
I think that mothers need to just ask more questions. I think sometimes, you know, it's easy to just conform and to just go along and do as you're told.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, ultimately it's your body,
Mm-hmm.
it's your baby that you're carrying. So, you know, ask those questions, you know, and seek information. I think, yeah, too many people just settle and go, oh, okay, well, they're the doctor, they, you know, they know what they're doing. And I mean, of course they know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still allowed to question things and ask why, or how will this affect, you know, how will this affect my body? How will this affect my child?
Yeah.
You know, and ask those questions and get the answers that you need.
Yeah. And it just, you know, that what you said makes sense to me, because when I had my son, I had, you know, after that, I had endometriosis, and I keep having this pain, and I keep going to the different doctors, and then they say that it's all in your head. I'm like, it's not in my head. There's a pain. There's something going on here. It's throbbing and I can feel it. And it's just, you know, the throbbing that's there. And then I had to go to multiple doctors to finally find a doctor who really listened to me. And then she went in, and then she says, oh yes, there's some weird stuff going on, you know, fibroid and all that sort of stuff. And then I had to have like it burned off and stuff. But then it was because I was really insistent that, you know, it's like, no, there's something wrong with me here that I need you to look at. And I want you to listen to me, because I just don't agree that it's not in my head. This pain is not in my head. It's throbbing.
And there are doctors out there. I mean, I remember one of my first doctors that I had, you know, when I was younger. He was all about prescriptions. You know, I'd go to see him about something and he'd say, take this, here's a prescription for this, do that. And I remembered saying to my mother, I said, Mum, he just gives me pills.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what's going on. And so I had to keep looking and, you know, thank goodness now, like I've got a doctor that, you know, that's the last thing she does. That's like a last resort. You know, she encourages me to explore other options, and you know, I'm really glad that I found a doctor like that, because she also doesn't make me, I suppose, you know, feel silly for questioning things or make me doubt myself and my own beliefs around health. So I've got a really good relationship with my doctor.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think when we came on the show, we're going to talk about something else, but we end up, you know what, you and I don't know what we're supposed to, we can talk forever, right? And it's like, okay, well, we'll just talk whatever. And that's this whole summit that I wanted to create, was that I wanted to just meet people across the world, meet people in different professions, and just like having these meaningful conversation about things to help us become aware, right? Aware of things that impact our life, aware of these discussions, because I have, you know, all my life, I've always had healers in my life. And even though I keep saying that I'm the anomaly accountant and I have surround myself with healers, I think it's coming back to like, okay, I think you're a healer. It just took you a little longer time to get to this, where you're going, where you're at right now, you know, but I think you found your way, you know, and now it's just bringing healers. I guess my role is to bring healers together and share information.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one last question that I always ask my experts. So if you had one superpower to change the world, what would that be and why?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. One superpower and why? This one might sound a little bit crazy, but it's the first thing that popped into my head.
Uh-huh.
I'd actually want the power to fly.
Yeah.
I say that because, you know, obviously the world is huge, and to be able to access places and people, essentially we need to jump on a plane.
Yeah.
But if I could fly, then I would be able to travel wherever I want, whenever I want.
Yeah.
You know, meet the people that I want to meet, guide them, help them, you know, get guidance from them. I'd just be flying all the time with my son, maybe my husband too, but, you know, I'd just be flying around, trying to learn and absorb and share and just everything. That would actually be amazing.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing? Or the ability to zap yourself, right? Click your finger like the genie.
Even teleport, fly,
Yeah.
teleport. Yeah, I won't overthink it. That was the first thing that came to mind.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it is so, I mean, I love traveling, but the one thing I don't like is to fly on an airplane, because I feel like, you know what I mean? I just love going around the world and just different places and meet different people, but just the flight there. Like, if you imagine from here in the USA and going to Asia, it's like 21 hours or 15 hours. And like sitting on an airplane, it's like, oh my gosh, it's exhausting.
I found that I've flown to LA twice. And so from Melbourne, that's 15 hours. And it's such a long flight. And, you know, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much walking you can do. There's only so many movies you can watch. Like it's more, I don't enjoy the actual travel part of things, but obviously getting there is amazing.
I know, I'm with you. It's like getting there, you know, it's the hard journey, and then getting there is like, wow, you know, you see all these amazing things, meet all the people, and eat amazing food and things like that. So it's actually, it's worth it. But you're right, if I had the superpower to fly, it's like, fly anywhere, like in that. So, okay, so how do we find you?
Okay, so there's a few ways. So social media, I have my Facebook page, which is The Bliss Coach. Also, my Instagram handle is @TheBlissCoach, and I've got my website. So that's www.theblisscoach.com.au.
Yeah, and as part of the summit, you know, we always want to give out something free, you know, so we'll do a raffle drawing, and your free offer is a little coaching time with you.
Yeah, so I'm offering a 30-minute discovery session, you know, for a very lucky person. So that way I can sort of, you know, get to hear a bit about you, hear what's going on, you know, in your headspace and in your mindset, and, you know, offer you a few tips and tricks on ways that we can start getting you from unconscious to conscious. And, you know, basically start that journey of empowerment.
Yeah, it was so wonderful. I love it. Yay. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thank you.
Yes, and I'm sure I will see you more, like our next summit that we're coming up with Women Empowerment. And you know, I'm sure we'll be in touch and talking more about different things.
Definitely.
Thank you.